The news broke like fire. Nnamdi Kanu, attacked inside custody. No warning.
No noise.
No sign. Just one sudden move from a man who was supposed to guard him. A man trusted to protect him. But in that moment, trust meant nothing. Loyalty meant nothing. Only intent mattered. And the intent behind that attack was dark, deliberate, and cold. It was a moment that lasted only seconds, yet it carried the weight of something much bigger. Something planned. Something guided. Something that did not come from a random burst of anger but from a quiet order whispered in the shadows. Kanu felt the danger before he fully understood it. It wasn't the kind of danger that shouts. It was the kind that enters a room without a sound. The kind that watches. The kind that waits for the exact moment when no one is paying attention. And for reasons still unknown, that guard, one simple guard, believed that moment had arrived. His steps were normal. His face showed nothing. His eyes did not betray fear or guilt. If anything, they showed a strange calm, the kind of calm a person has when convinced that they will not fail. Or worse, convinced that even if they fail, someone powerful will protect them. For a second, Kanu believed he was alone. Surrounded by walls, surrounded by rules, surrounded by people he did not choose and did not trust. In a place like that, danger feels closer. Louder. Sharper. But even then, what happened next felt unreal. The guard's move was quick, precise, almost too confident. It was not the movement of a confused man. It was not the movement of a panicked man. It was the movement of someone who understood exactly what he came to do. And that understanding made everything more frightening. But Kanu reacted, not out of strength, but out of instinct. A simple shift. A simple movement. Enough to break the flow of the attack. Enough to force the guard into confusion. Enough to give others time to intervene. Seconds later, the attacker was restrained. Pulled away. Dragged out of the space as if he was a threat to everyone around him. Yet no one asked the question he needed to ask. Why? Inside the prison, the walls swallowed the moment.
No alarm. No panic.
Just quiet footsteps and forced order. On the surface, it looked controlled. But inside that silence, something dangerous lived. A secret. A message. A warning. The officers around acted like nothing happened, but their faces told a different story. Some were shaken. Some were confused. And some looked like they already knew what that attack meant and had hoped it would end differently. That kind of fear is not born from a single man's action. It is born from knowing something larger is behind it. That is why, the moment the news leaked outside, the world reacted like a match dropped in dry grass. People shouted the same question again and again. Who ordered this? Because this was not a small event. This was not a simple assault. The timing was too sharp. The target too important. The attacker too confident. And the silence inside the prison after the incident was too heavy. Too rehearsed, too careful. The public did not buy the official statements. They wanted to hear more. They wanted to know why a man who was arrested, a man already inside the state's grip, a man cut off from freedom, still needed to be attacked. What threat does a man inside a cell still pose? The answer scared many people. Kanu's voice. A voice that has survived cages, courts, borders, and political storms. A voice that still pulls attention even when stripped of everything else. If someone wanted him silenced forever, this was not the first attempt, only the closest one. The incident turned the prison into a battlefield of suspicion. Every guard became a stranger. Every decision became a risk. Every step carried meaning. Kanu understood this better than anyone. Once someone tries to take your life, the world you knew before no longer exists. Danger doesn't disappear. It hides. It waits. It studies. And the man who attacked him may only be the tip of something bigger, something hidden behind power, politics, and fear. By the end of that day, Nigeria wasn't calm. It was restless. Tension moved through the air like smoke. People whispered. Leaders denied. Supporters demanded answers. And somewhere, someone who ordered the attack was watching the chaos with quiet interest. Because the attempt failed. But the message, landed. And from that moment on, one truth became clear. If danger could reach Kanu inside custody, then nothing about his fate was safe anymore. The attack was not random. Not even close. It was too precise, too sudden, too calculated. The kind of act that speaks without words, the kind of act that leaves questions burning in everyone's mind. It was the type of act that forces people to ask, why? And who? Immediately, theories began to spread. Some said it was a warning, a sign to back down, to stay silent. Others whispered it was a threat, something darker, meant to instill fear not just in Kanu, but in anyone who might stand with him. But most people who understood the situation well suspected it was neither warning nor simple threat. They suspected it was a move with a goal far beyond what anyone could see. Something hidden. Something dangerous. The world outside the prison walls reacted in shock, but inside, tension grew like a living thing. Guards and officials walked with careful steps, measured words, and heavy eyes. Each one tried to read the other, to understand who could be trusted and who might already be playing a hidden role. The air was thick with suspicion, heavy with silence, yet loud with the unspoken question, who ordered this? Some fingers pointed to the very top. The whispers grew louder, names began to circulate, and one question refused to leave the minds of the people watching. Is Tinubu after Kanu's life? The suggestion alone carried weight. It was not a small accusation. It was an allegation that shook the foundation of power, politics, and control. If the man at the highest office wanted Kanu gone, then nothing that followed would be ordinary. Everything would become part of a larger plan. And yet, the government rushed to deny it. Loyalists called it rumors. Official statements claimed it was a baseless story. But statements cannot erase instinct. Statements cannot erase fact. And the facts were simple. A man inside custody was attacked by someone who should have protected him. The timing made the story even more dangerous. Kanu's detention had already been tense, already surrounded by international attention, already a source of political unrest. An attack like this could not be accidental. It had the markings of strategy, of intent, of someone who calculated every move. And for the people who studied politics in Nigeria, nothing happens without reason. Every act, every step, every decision is part of a game. And sometimes, that game can cost lives. Kanu supporters did not wait for answers. They demanded them. They spoke loudly. They rallied. They questioned the system that was supposed to keep him safe. Every word, every post, every conversation was a challenge to those in power. Every moment of attention made the attack more than an isolated incident. It became a statement, a spotlight, a spark that could ignite a larger confrontation. And yet, the real danger was invisible. The danger that cannot be seen, measured, or caught. The danger that hides behind orders, behind uniforms, behind doors and meetings that no one else can enter. The real danger was knowing that someone wanted Kanu dead, and they were close enough to act. Close enough to strike. Close enough to send a message that cannot be ignored. Fear is powerful. But uncertainty is stronger. People feared for Kanu's life. Yes. But even more than fear was the question of trust. Who could be trusted? Who had a hidden agenda? Who stood in the shadows, watching, waiting for the right moment to act? And most importantly, if this attack succeeded, what would stop the next one? Power does not always speak openly. It speaks in actions. Subtle moves, hidden orders, choices that shape lives and histories. And this move, the attack inside custody, spoke louder than any words. It said one thing clearly: there are people willing to do anything to silence you. For Kanu, the attack was a reminder that survival is not just about strength. It is about awareness. It is about knowing that danger is always close. It is about reading every movement, every word, every expression. It is about preparing for the impossible, because the impossible had already arrived once, and it could come again. The public did not need to see the attack to understand its meaning. They only needed to know it happened. That knowledge was enough to ignite fear, suspicion, and outrage. People asked the same questions over and over. Who gave the order? Why now? How close did it come? The world outside and inside Nigeria became a silent observer of tension. Allies watched. Rivals watched. And somewhere in the corridors of power, someone observed how the chaos unfolded, likely satisfied by the effect of the move, measuring reactions, planning the next one. Kanu's situation became a mirror for a larger struggle. It was not just one man in danger. It was one voice, one movement, one symbol under attack. And the shadow behind it hinted at a force willing to use fear, strategy, and force to maintain control. The attack raised more than fear. It raised suspicion, doubt, and questions with no easy answers. Trust eroded. Every decision became heavy. Every interaction was measured. And for Kanu, every second in custody became a test, not of strength, but of survival, awareness, and endurance. The dark questions would not go away. They would linger, echo, and demand answers that no one in power could easily provide. And as the days passed, the world waited, watched, and wondered, who truly ordered this attack, and what comes next? Because in a system like this, an attack is never just an attack. It is a message, a signal, a warning. And sometimes, it is the first step in a game where lives are the stakes and power is the only currency that matters. After the attack, everything changed. Not slowly, not quietly, everything shifted in a way that could not be ignored. Inside the prison, the walls seemed heavier. The guards moved differently. The rules tightened, but tension spread faster than any order could contain it. Kanu knew the world had shifted around him, and he felt it in every glance, every footstep, every passing moment. Danger no longer lurked in corners. It walked openly, waiting for the slightest opportunity. Extra security measures came into place, but measures cannot erase risk. They can only delay it. Awareness became a survival tool. Every word spoken was weighed. Every movement calculated. Every person watched. And still, the biggest question lingered above everything else. Who ordered the attack? Outside the prison, the reaction was immediate. Kanu supporters demanded answers. Governments, organizations, and activists raised their voices. The international community questioned the state's ability to protect a man already in custody. Newspapers, online platforms, and media outlets carried the story in waves, each iteration sharper, louder, and harder to ignore. The world watched not just for answers, but for consequences. And consequences, when power is involved, are rarely small. Inside the prison, Kanu realized something critical. Survival was not about hiding. It was not about waiting for protection. It was about understanding the system that surrounded him, the forces that moved unseen. Every moment of control someone outside the prison tried to exert could be turned into danger. Every ally could be compromised. Every strategy could fail. The realization weighed on him heavily, but he did not panic. He could not. The attacker had failed, but failure does not mean the threat ended. Far from it. If someone tried once, they could try again. And the world of power and politics, particularly in Nigeria, rarely forgets a target. Once a person is marked, they are marked forever, until the mark is removed by force, compromise, or surrender. And Kanu had refused to surrender. This was the moment when survival merged with strategy. He needed to anticipate the next move. The next attempt. The next whisper of danger that could come from anywhere. An officer, a messenger, a loyalist, even someone he considered a friend. Every potential threat became a piece of a puzzle he had to solve before it became a trap. Supporters around the world understood the stakes as well. Their voices amplified, their actions intensified, and their attention made Kanu's situation visible to everyone. Power moves in silence, but exposure can act as a shield. It cannot guarantee safety, but it can limit the range of action for those who strike from the shadows. And that was Kanu's advantage. The eyes of the world were on him, forcing the powerful to consider consequences before making the next move. Yet, even with this exposure, fear persisted. Not the kind that paralyzes, but the kind that sharpens. Fear became awareness. Awareness became calculation. And calculation, in a place like this, is the closest thing to survival. Every decision, every thought, every interaction became part of a strategy. And one wrong step could undo everything. The political implications were unavoidable. The attack had already stirred debate, suspicion, and speculation. Voices called for justice. Others whispered about corruption, orders from above, and hidden agendas. The tension grew, and with tension, the stakes grew even higher. Kanu was no longer just a man. He had become a symbol of resistance. A symbol of survival. A symbol of someone who dared to continue speaking even when the risk was life itself. And now, the clock was running. Each day brought the unknown closer. Each moment could be the next test. The system, the prison, the people around him, they were all players in a game where every move counted and every second mattered. And in this game, hesitation is deadly. Kanu stood at the edge of this danger, aware that nothing in the past would protect him in the future. Every plan, every preparation, every connection became a line of defense. But defense is never complete. It is always partial, temporary, fragile. The world outside may watch, but it cannot fully intervene. Only those around him who understood the stakes, could keep him alive. And yet, amidst the tension, one truth emerged clearer than anything else. He had survived once. He had survived when no one expected him to. He had reacted faster than the attacker. He had turned instinct into action. That survival, that spark, became the foundation for everything that followed. It was proof that even when danger is close, even when power is aligned against you, a single decision, a single movement, a single reaction can change the outcome. The public watched, the world watched, and the tension did not fade. Questions remained unanswered. Shadows of suspicion continued to hover. But the fact remained, Kanu had survived, and survival is the first step toward any next move. For him, survival was not just life. It was leverage. It was proof that fear could be met with courage, danger could be met with action, and a system built to control him could still be challenged. And somewhere, behind the orders, behind the strategies, behind the whispers, someone knew the message had landed. Kanu had not only survived, he had sent a message back. The game had changed, and the world would soon see the next chapter unfold.